Hello, hello. I am here with our energy update for today. I know it's a little bit later than I normally come on, but I had some duties to take care of this morning. Um, you know, the energy today, I feel, has been kind of like emotionally volatile. So I feel like if something is weighing on your mind or your heart, perhaps the best way to pay attention to it is to simply sit with yourself and allow yourself to feel your feelings without attaching yourself to the feelings and to just let the feelings flow through you. I know that this full moon had a huge impact for a lot of people, people with illnesses, accidents, deaths in the family, um, other things that you kind of always assumed would be there are abruptly removed from your life without your counsel or I don't necessarily want to say permission, but just like feeling like something was taken from you in such a quick, fast way that you didn't even have a chance to understand what was happening until the reality really set in. So yeah, let's see what the cards have to say. I'm going to pull from what I consider to be my love deck, which is my last unicorn deck. And also, fun fact, I am watching the last unicorn and cleaning my house, which is something that I do when there's something that's very heavy weighing on me. And, you know, instead of going into victim mode, instead of just sitting in the room and crying or whatever, getting up, cleaning the house. The Last Unicorn is just a movie that I've been watching since I was teeny tiny, and I love it just the same as I always have. One of my favorite quotes is something that Schmendrick says towards the end. Um, I think maybe Maggie Grew says something to the effect of, well, something about a happy ending, right? And Schmendrick says, well, there is no such thing as a happy ending because nothing truly ends. So I feel like that's kind of a really good metaphor for the way that I'm feeling about the energy today. And perhaps let's start with a bird. To me, birds are magical messengers that travel through dimensions and through realms. And to me, I think they're one of the greatest things about being human, for me personally, is because it doesn't matter what is happening in my day, how many mosquitoes are biting me when I'm outside. I look up and there's a hawk, or there's a hummingbird, or I sit here and stare out at my tree Pablo, and different types of birds like verdins land in the tree, sometimes monarch butterflies, which again aren't birds, but just the little gifts that Mother Earth puts on display for our enjoyment. And not only that, um, it's like communion with another living thing, which of course their consciousness is different than ours, but they still have a consciousness, right? But communion with this other living thing and realizing like we're not so different, you and I, me and the bird, me and the tree, me and the sky, me and the clouds, me and the sun. Like we're all pieces and parts of the same thing. We all have consciousness to different degreeing factors. Just like really realizing that like everything that exists is a reflection of all that there is, and we are also part of all that there is. So in a sense, it's almost like looking at this beautiful mirror. Like every time you see the beauty in something outside of you, you're also acknowledging the beauty that you have inside of yourself, whether or not you're consciously focused on that realization or not. So here's the first card. She came up upside down. She's a goldfinch. And I feel like for me, this is really saying just don't let it get you down. A temporary situation, um, a temporary emotional upheaval, just sit with it. Don't let it steal your shine. Don't let it delude you. Because I know a lot of times when things like this happen that like discourage us, we feel like we need to shut down, become small, dim our light, delude ourselves. And that's not necessary, but maybe you just keep to yourself a little bit more. Because remember that your energy is a gift, and every single person that you share it with If they're not recognizing your energy as such, then maybe they don't really see that in themselves, which is sad, right? But it doesn't mean that you have to take responsibility for it and bring that into your energy and dilute your nature. So sometimes the best thing that you can do is simply be like a battery and plug yourself into yourself and just recharge, right? And that's how I'm seeing this goldfinch energy. I see a lot of yellow, solar plexus. I see the black and white. So make sure you're seeing yourself clearly. Don't fall into victim mode or martyrdom or anything like this, because things happen in life. That's just the nature of reality, is that there's going to be challenges. There's going to be emotional turmoil. There's going to be things that hurt you very deeply that no one maybe will ever understand at the same level as you. But that doesn't mean you're alone, because you always have yourself, and you always have whoever your guides are that you commune with. And whether you see them as something outside of you, or if you see them as different versions of you from different dimensions sent to remind you of who you really are, it's all up for your discretion, right? But I also see how the goldfinch, she's not separate from nature. She realizes that she is one with nature. And so, in fact, maybe all we're being asked to do, she looks a little pissed off. Let's look. She looks a little stern. And I feel like whatever people might be going through, that's making them very upset right now, could very much have something to do with some type of a boundary violation. And let's pull from the Starseed Oracle. Again, I pretty much am at this belief that a star seed is an activation of sorts. It's like a remembrance of who you really are. Remembering that your human body is just a vessel that contains a part of you, and it's not all of you. And I know that this isn't necessarily something that is widely believed or perceived. And I'm not saying that I'm right and others are wrong. I'm simply just saying that this is what has always just made the most sense to me, even since a very young child. I always felt like I was part of something huge and infinite, I guess you could say. And there was a time where that made me feel very lonely and depressed, because it's kind of like a weird thing to think about, you know? You either live forever or you die forever. But then you realize this human mind can't comprehend everything because it's not meant to. And the fact that we're in these dense physical forms suggests that we don't have the layer of consciousness that perhaps we have in other octaves. So it's like asking someone to speak a language that they've never heard before, I guess you could say. It's not a very good comparison, but I don't have a great one for today. And I haven't been feeling completely like myself for about a week. So hopefully it'll come back online soon, because you know I have a lot to offer, and I know that. And I feel like right now it's a little dulled down for whatever reason. But everybody goes through things, and I think one of my hopes in like coming on here and being that crazy lady with the gray frizzy hair and the eye bags, or like whatever, like I'm coming on here authentically. I'm coming on here just as who I am, because I feel like when I was younger, I could have really used someone like me. So, and what do we see from this card? Perspective. None of this matters. Zoom out, common ground. So, literally just sit alone with yourself or watch your favorite movie and clean your house. And then we're going to pull a last one from the Akashic Records. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind about that. We're going to do from Galactic Heritage. Because, whatever the collective is experiencing, if you're thinking of the collective as the macrocosm, then, us as the microcosm is also being affected similarly, but on a smaller scale. So perhaps everything that seems like emotional turmoil right now is really just a growth spurt in the universe and in our consciousness. And also emotions, they're just passengers. They're just meant to be transient and flow through you. They're not meant to stay. You're not meant to identify with them. But you know, they're healing, and crying is healing. Uh, it allows the flow of water through your body. It's actually scientifically said to help cleanse the liver. There's literally like 10 different ways I could explain everything that I talk about. I explain it from the way that it's easily digestible for me, but you know, for every single woo-woo type particular situation that I could explain, there is a psychological reasoning behind it. There is a quantum physics reasoning behind it. Um, so again, I feel like that is kind of also part of my path. When I worked as a pharmacist, that was my favorite part, was counseling patients, because the medical jargon is so confusing. And if you have someone there who can kind of translate it for you, that's very helpful. So that's another reason why I have two astrology teachers, but I'm also just like fine tuning the astrology by teaching myself things. That's why I'm forcing myself to come on here and make a fool of myself talking about the astrology aspects. And who knows, maybe no one will ever watch it, but I'm still doing it because it's important to me. And I feel like when we want to make a change in our life, even if the only support that we feel like we have is from ourselves, it's okay to just keep putting yourself out there, keep putting yourself out there, make yourself vulnerable. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, what's going to happen is the people who are of like kind are going to be magnetized towards you. And you're going to realize that you were never alone. You've always been supported. You've always been held. You've always been loved. And it takes moments like these where you literally kind of maybe feel like that's you in this big black void. And actually, a lot of magic can really happen there. So, alchemy. I was literally just about to say transmutation. And that's a three. And whenever I see a three, I think of what I call the triangle of coherence, the negative polarity, the positive polarity, and the point where two things that are conflicting in nature um, come together as one, the point of coherence. So, I will end here and say that today is meant to be spent in whatever way makes you feel nourished, supported, and loved by yourself. Don't worry about external confirmation. Don't worry about, getting approval from the outside. Worry about your internal world. Nourish yourself, whether that means taking a bath, going on a walk, sitting down and watching your favorite movie. Maybe you're watching a funny show because then it gets you out of like that heavy sinking feeling. But realize like today, this moment is just one moment in a series of many, 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 many moments. And it does not define your life. It does not define you. And ultimately, if you were given a challenge, it's because you're strong enough to face it and to go through all of yourself and say, hey, this challenge or this trigger or whatever it was that came up for me today presented itself for my consideration. So I can see, where am I not healed? Where am I not seeing myself clearly? Where am I perhaps going into victim mode and creating stories that are us versus them? And of course, all of it's just part of it. But these are all bridges, much like a label is a bridge. It's not meant to be stayed on. Like, right? I always use the analogy of when you break your leg and you're using a crutch. Once the crutch has helped you as a tool or a bridge, like a label or, an emotion or something we're going through, it's just a tool. It's just a bridge. It's meant to help you get to the other side. So have a good day.